Hey hotties, have you been missing new Process Party episodes and want more behind the scenes scoops?
It's all over on our Patreon. Our loyal hotties get exclusive episodes, live workshops, and our best unedited and unfiltered conversations for just $10 a month.
And if that's not enough, it's super easy to subscribe and there's no long-term commitment.
Learn more and subscribe at patreon.com/HYDC.
Welcome to the Hot Young Designers Club podcast.
I'm Rebecca Plum, your big sister.
And I'm Sean Surha, your GBF.
We're not that hot or that young,
but we believe it's a state of mind that helps us build adaptable and profitable businesses.
We rely on the support of our design besties to get through each day.
So let's explore the emotional, practical, and humorous sides of being interior designers.
Welcome to the club. Hey, Sean.
What's up, Rebecca?
We are very excited to welcome an SEO expert, Evan Larkin. We have been wanting to have one on the show. So, Evan, please welcome yourself to the show. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, hi, thanks, guys. This is, as I was saying earlier, you are my first official podcast. So it's an exciting morning for me talking with both of you. And so SEO expert, appreciate the kind words. I've been in the digital marketing space for almost 15 years now. SEO is one of the areas of digital marketing that I've focused on the most and where I've seen the most results from my clients, specifically through a good friend of mine who ventured into the interior design space. I got into working with interior designers and have had some success with that. And I'm excited to be here and happy to answer any questions and hopefully provide some value for you guys.
Yeah, so we're doing something a little bit different today where we're kind of doing like a live consultation almost. Yeah,
we tried what the pitch was. I messaged Evan and thank you for being so responsive to it. Cause I was like, hi, we have a podcast. And it always feels so weird to ask someone when it's brand new, because a designer friend of ours, who's also a member of our Patreon community, shout out Heather, she had talked with you and described this sort of audit that you conduct as part of the discovery process with potential new clients that you're going to work with. And I was like, oh, I want to do that, but do that for me. But also, can we do it real time so the reactions are genuine and the thoughts are coming to us genuinely? And also haven't had time to prepare anything the way that a real client of yours would, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So when I work with somebody, the first step is, I want to meet them, I want to talk to them, learn about their business. And on the digital side, I'll go and put together kind of an audit of their website and how it shows up online, or what I like to call their digital footprint. And that's usually pretty revealing. It's usually things that people have never thought about or looked at with their website before. So usually we find some things that can be corrected there. So yeah, I thought it was a fun idea. We could dive in and kind of do it real time and get your reaction and answer any questions. Yeah, go from there.
Cool.
Okay.
Let's do it.
I'm excited.
Okay. All right. So we'll dive in. So I do this stuff all day, every day, and I can get kind of technical or in the weeds. So feel free to wave me off, ask any questions, tell me you don't know what the hell I'm talking about. That's totally fine. And I'll try to rephrase things and put it in context.
And just to clarify for our listeners, we're actually sharing his screen. So he's looking at Sean's website. He's on the hot seat today, rensteadinteriors.com. So we'll be doing our best to kind of talk with words about what we're seeing with our eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll do my best to kind of describe what we're looking at here. But the audit itself it's a one page that we put together, and it breaks down all the key elements of a website as far as Google is concerned, right? So we want to make Google happy. Number one search engine in the world, and really whatever works for Google is going to work for everybody else too, right? So looking at these key elements, what needs to be on your website, how does it need to be built to show up on Google? So when people are searching for interior designer near me or interior design consultation or top rated interior designer, you're the first result on Google. That's what we're going for. So first of all, I want to say, and this is the case with a lot of interior designers, the website itself looks great. So obviously you guys have a great eye. That's what you do. So the design, the look of the website is really nice. And that's kind of common when I work with people in this type of space, right? They've got a good eye. The website looks good. The images are usually high quality and they're clear and they're really pretty and they match with the overall color scheme and style guide of the site. So all that stuff is great. And what we're looking at today...
Does that factor into SEO at all?
Good question. It doesn't factor in. So yes and no. So original content helps with SEO. So if all of your even your images, if they're original, if they're your images where you've had someone take pictures, that does help a little bit. It's not going to, make or break anything, but it does help a little bit. But even more so, it helps with, once we get someone to the website, are they going to click that contact button? Are they going to reach out to you?
Mm-hmm.
And if your site is aesthetically pleasing, especially for an interior designer, where that is a lot of what you guys are doing, is creating, beautiful spaces, right? So we want to have that represented on the site. So that design side is important. And a lot of times sites will look great. So people think like, well, they're done because they look fantastic. But what we really want to look at is, behind the scenes. It's kind of like a house. This house looks great, but then you find out that, the foundation is cracked and, it's missing supporting beams and the wall's going to fall down, even though it looks good. So it's kind of the analogy we use there. But so looking at the audit here, so the site looks great. We're going to look at a few different things. We're going to look at the actual technical aspects of the site. If we're using the home analogy, think of this as like the plumbing, the wiring, the electrical, kind of like what's behind the scenes, making the house run. That's what we call on-site SEO, or SEO that's happening on the website itself. The other part of SEO is off-site SEO or off-page SEO. So that is a whole other category, which is elements that affect your site's ranking, but that aren't on your site. So things like your Google business profile, your ratings and reviews, other websites that link to you, that all helps too. So we've kind of got two camps. We've got the website itself, and then we've got things that are happening off the website that relate to your website. So the first thing we'll dive into, we want to look at the platform. You're on a WordPress website. That's great. Pretty common. One of the top ones there, using, Elementor as your template. Pretty straightforward. WordPress is a great platform. It's been around for a long time. It's, I think, still 40% of all websites in the world are on WordPress. I will say, for those people that are on Squarespace, just personal, they're not paying me or anything like that, but personal plug, I really like them. They've come a long way. 5 years ago, I wouldn't have recommended them, but they're doing a really good job. And from what I've seen, they're innovating more than the other platforms out there too.
Is that strictly from SEO, that you're talking?
Across the board.
Okay.
Like styles,
yeah, I would say.
The usability of it, it's gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
Are there
significantly better?
Are there any WordPress website platforms that you find are challenging to work with, that designers would want to know about?
It's I'd say yes and no, but it's so individual. Mm-hmm. WordPress still, it's not quite as out of the box as some of the other ones. In my opinion, WordPress hasn't been able to keep up with innovations because the platform itself is pretty old. The technology is kind of old now. And so it's kind of a mixed bag. I would be very curious to see where WordPress is going to be in 5+ years as far as a platform goes. Just as far as just because I haven't really seen any innovation coming out of them anytime soon. I don't think they're going to go away or they're going to disappear by any means. But
all the plugins,
I haven't really seen any innovation.
Yeah, the plugins innovate.
It's the plugins innovate, which is its own problem because then you've got multiple points of failure. Every plugin is a potential security breach, a potential failure point. And I'm sure people have experienced that who have managed WordPress websites over time. So
what about? Sorry, we're kind of derailing you a little bit, but what about that's Show It? I know a lot of designers use that because it's very photo heavy.
Show It. I don't know if I'm familiar with that.
What is it built? Is
that a plugin for WordPress?
No, it's built on. Is it Wix, Sean?
I think so.
Okay, what about Wix?
Yeah.
It's like a whole template built in the Show It, and Show It sells it as like a whole template that just plugs into your site, basically.
And it's for just from a design standpoint. Is that what it's used for?
It's kind of like Elementor. I feel like for Wix. I may be not correct, so sorry, fact check me. But I've heard that I've heard that it's kind of really code heavy and it makes SEO difficult. But if you don't know, then
it's very possible. I have not encountered that specific plugin on Wix. In general, Wix has some limitations that I don't love, so I tend to steer away from Wix or recommend people go to a different platform. Just hopefully no one from Wix is upset with me, but I don't think. But
for them, maybe.
yeah. But so going back to the platform WordPress, that's great. No issues there. You want to make sure that your site's secured. That's that little HTTPS you'll see before the www. Most sites today are secured. Every now and then you come across one that's not. So you've got that. ADA compliant is another interesting thing to look at. So there was, and I'm not a legal expert to put that out first, but they've expanded. The Americans with Disabilities Act has been expanded to include websites as part of public spaces. So websites do need to be ADA compliant. Again, don't quote me on that from a legal standpoint, but that is just from my understanding of it from working on the website side of things. I've been involved in some potential lawsuits around this, so I have a little bit of first-hand experience with this, both for other businesses that I've run and clients. And so there's a lot of ways to do that. The easiest way is to work with a company that can provide you with a widget that makes your site ADA compliant. One thing I noticed, Sean, on your site is that while you do have a widget here, which is a little pop-up that comes up on your website, and it has these different screen controls, ways to interface with the website, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I have a screen reader, or if I have an auditory or visual impairment, there are some things here on your website through this widget that I can engage with that will make the site easier for me to read and understand. One thing, which is great that you have this widget there. One thing that I noticed though is when I go to click on your accessibility statement, which is kind of the legal side of this, it takes me to a page that is not found. So you actually don't have this. You think of it like this would be like someone would have like a terms and privacy policy. Yeah. It's kind of that legal page. So this is missing on your page. So this could potentially, again, not a lawyer here, but my understanding, this could potentially leave you open to some issues. So you would want to have an accessibility statement drafted with this. This doesn't really affect SEO, but it's something that I always check just because, like I said, I've been in situations before where it's created issues for clients. And so I always just like to make sure that that's something that's covered.
Yeah.
So
I honestly had no idea that link was a link down there.
It'll be done.
For the accessibility
It'll be done
statement.
by the end of the day. He does not like that.
Not my compliance brain coming back like, oh no, like, yeah.
Yeah.
But so that's again, that's like the side of like, yeah, sure, we can get everyone to our site, but then when people are there, how can they interact? Like, what makes it easier?
Exactly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also, since this is this page is coming up when I click on that link for the statement, it comes up with no results found. This page actually, that does kind of hurt your SEO because Google, if it crawls that page, it's like, why is there a page
broken link
that's on the site, but it says there's no results? And like, so that looks like, it kind of looks broken. So from an SEO standpoint, that is, you don't want broken pages. So that's those areas there. There's some stuff, we look at URL structure. It's kind of how the URLs are put together, that, the address in the top bar there. Those are pretty good. We can improve a little bit of those. We don't have to go too much into that. We'll kind of dive into this section here. So this is what we call the metadata of the site. I know this is really exciting stuff. It's all technical stuff, but this is the metadata here of the website. When you and I and anyone else looks at a website, we see a certain set of things, right? We see the images, we see the copy on the page. Mm-hmm. When Google looks at a website, Google sees all that, but then it sees everything that's behind the scenes. So then kind of going back to like the wiring and the plumbing that's behind the walls.
Okay.
So Google's looking at this data we call metadata. And so every page has a title, a meta title. Every page has a description, a meta description. And then every page has what we call header tags or H tags. And these are H1, H2, H3, H4, and so on. So these are telling Google before it even reads the rest of it, what the page is about. So think of it like a book, right? You have the title of the chapter, you have the description of the chapter, and then you have like the subchapters. So that's what we're telling Google here. So this is what is most commonly neglected or overlooked when I look at sites. So when we're looking at the meta titles, you do have meta titles. Oh, I should say one more thing too. So Google actually uses the meta titles and the meta description to represent your website in search. So when you search a website and you see a title and a description, Google looks at the meta titles and descriptions in the back end of the site first to dictate what that will be in the search results. So you can be helped that way. So this would be, like, to give you a visual example here, but go to your homepage. This is what we see here. I have this plugin. So this shows us what Google sees. So we see title. It should be between 30 to 65 characters. Here it says 25 characters. The description is just missing. This should be about 190 to 290 characters. You're missing one. And the most important header tag, the H1 tag, is also missing on your homepage here. So we're not really giving Google a ton of information about what this page is. This is the first thing Google looks at, right? So yeah. So, and the title, what's there is the title just says the word home because it's your homepage, and then the name of your business. So this doesn't give Google really any information either, right? Because this should be telling Google that, you're an interior designer and you're located in Long Beach or you're offering services. So that title, there's a bit of marketing with these SEO and data too, right? Like we want we want to make it enticing, and we want to tell Google what you do in a way that makes people want to click on it. So,
So just having home is not like, that's not what any designer should have. Yeah.
Zero value to Google, and for you, if you're trying to get someone to click on that link, if they do see that in the link, right? Like if I see this that just says home and the name of a company, there's no reason to click on that. If it says, 5-star interior designer in Long Beach, oh, well, now I'm interested in that. And that is what you are. And that is, that's something that I would want to click on. So it's helpful that way. Similarly with that description, I'm saying. So this is what we want to make sure. Every page has this information, and we want to make sure this information is completed on every page, and it's part of a larger SEO strategy where we're targeting certain keywords and search terms and locations. So looking at it, we can go through each page, which we don't have to go through right now because I did that earlier. But what we see across, the titles and the descriptions of these tags is, you do have meta titles, but it's just the name of the page, home, services, plus the name of your business. So there's really not any value from an SEO standpoint there. Mm-hmm. Most of the descriptions are either missing or they're incomplete, meaning they're just like a little sentence there. Or another thing is that they're duplicated. So a lot of times people will just put the same description in for everyone. That's kind of like plagiarizing. So Google doesn't like duplicate content. And so we want to make sure that all this information is unique for every page.
So the description is of the page, not necessarily the business.
Correct. Okay. Yeah. So it should be describing the information that's on that page in a way that connects it to what the business does. And from a location standpoint, as interior designers, we're usually working in a certain location, right? So it'd be great to be the number one interior designer in the country, but we got to start in our neighborhood, our city, our neighboring cities, and build from there first.
Right.
So we want to make sure that this includes information to where you're offering these services as well, and that should be unique for every page. So that's really what's missing across the board: the meta title, the meta description, and then we'll get into the headers for a second.
Okay.
The thing so those are what's missing and what needs to be corrected. That's going to give you a big improvement with your SEO to Google. For the headers, so this is very common as well. So headers, a little history in SEO. Headers were designed for SEO. The reason why they exist, these H1 tags, these H2 tags, these H3 tags, was for SEO purposes. However, they've become over the years a design element. So they're used to assign, and if anyone that's worked on their own website, whether it's in WordPress or Squarespace or Wix or whatever, they'll see this. And it'll have, you'll H1 or your header one, and you'll assign like a font size and a font style to it. And so that's how people use it now. Unfortunately, Google still uses it for SEO. So what happens is we get pages where because of style reasons, they're missing H1 tags, or they have like 8 H1 tags. Ideally, you should only have one H1 tag. And so here we're missing one on this page. On this page, I believe we have 8 of them over here. So this is something where the style and the SEO the form and the function kind of have to work together. So we want to make sure that
you're now looking at like the services page has them and it has multiples, but the home page didn't have any.
Didn't have any, exactly.
That's multiple uses of the H1 tags. Not like he has different assigned H1 tags with different fonts applied to it. He's using the H1 tag 8 times on this page. Okay.
Correct. Yes. So one easy trick that I do with this is you make the font and the style of your H1 tag and your H2 tag the same. Mm-hmm. And then every page has just one H1 tag, and then all the other ones are where you would use an H1 tag or an H2 tag. So that way you can still keep this page looks exactly the same, but you're now telling Google, hey, that this is the one H1 tag this page is about. And then everything else is secondary to that.
So you want a single H1.
It's the chapter
like one heading. Single H1 tag.
Yeah.
Yes. Great. A great way. Yeah. This is chapter heading, and then your H2 and everything else are like sub chapters. If that kind of makes sense. So like for your services page, our services, that's what this whole page is about. That's the main chapter title of this page is services.
Yeah.
And then, consultations, design sessions, full service, those are all subcategories of your services.
And I can just change those. They can look the same size as the H1 ones, but put them in the H2 category.
100%. Yep. Yeah. You nailed it. Mm-hmm. So it's a little trick. I would say 90% of sites that I look at have this issue. So just something to kind of bring up there. So that's your metadata. So that's where, again, we want to make the most to make the most changes there, and that'd probably help you the most too, from what I've seen.
Got it.
Moving on to some positive things. Oh, go ahead.
Are you going to talk about metadata in like imagery?
Sure. Yeah, we can go there. So you're talking about like alt text, so alt image tags and alt text.
Titles, like I feel like I struggle with whether that's important or not.
Yeah, image titles. Yeah, so it is important. It's secondary to this metadata for the page. So the reason why I don't have a section for that on here is you can rank a website on the first page of Google without doing a lot of work on the images from an SEO standpoint. That being said, it's good to do. So I'm not trying to say it's not important.
But it wouldn't be the first thing you would triage if this was the emergency room of a website. It would be like, that's not actively bleeding, leave it alone. Like,
and there's thousands of them.
I would say in this, that's the other thing is, especially again with a business like interior design, where it's so image heavy because you have so many great examples of your client's work that there's usually a lot of images. Definitely helpful, but to your point, great analogy. If we're trying to stop the site from bleeding out, we are not going to worry about the images right now. We're going to get kind of the main elements corrected, and then we can do that kind of as a secondary. Some notes on the images though. The same kind of theory applies. So we want to look at the services that are offered, and we want to look at the locations where they're offered. So from kind of your SEO strategy, your SEO playbook, you want to look at those two things. What services are you offering? Where are you offering them? So for an image, a great example of how that can be applied is, let's say you had, a home that you did a whole kitchen, remodel and, dining room kind of remodel. Maybe they just had those two parts of the house they're working on from a design perspective. Those images, you can, in the description, talk about how that was, a full kitchen, interior design project in this neighborhood. So if it's and that's going to give you the services, what you guys are offering with the location and a little bit about the image too.
Yeah,
so that's kind of a way to tie those things together.
In Pasadena.
In the alt description,
yes.
Not the title. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then in the title, that'll be like in the alt image tag, and then in the title, you can do something similar too. So you can do in the title. I also like to include the name of the business just to help kind of like you own that image, because if it does get into search, then you want to make sure that people see that
the
they see your name on there as well. I mean, that's a whole other debate. I think there's multiple schools of thought on that. Okay. So, but we can
not get into it.
But it's at least got to be ours so people can find us again. Because there is that problem when you see pictures that people save, they upload
Pinterest,
themselves into Pinterest, where it's like they downloaded the image and then uploaded it somewhere else. So if it's not in the title of that image, then when people see it repeated elsewhere, they lose sight of the original source.
100%. Another thing you can do with that as well is, this is a little bit of extra work. It won't affect your SEO from a technical standpoint, but again, just with the Pinterest example, which is a great platform for image sharing, obviously, and a ton of people search on that as well for interior design inspiration. But a little watermark on your image goes a long way. So if you can get like a clear or watermark version of your logo and throw that into one of the corners of your images, that, especially when uploading them to Pinterest or sharing them on other platforms besides your website, that can go a long way to help kind of credit you with that. And hopefully it, people reach out to you and it helps kind of build your brand as well that way. So again, not really helping from an SEO standpoint.
Okay. And just one more quick thing on that. So when you're doing your title, your image titles, do you get dinged if it's repetitive? So if you do Studio Plum, Sacramento Kitchen, 01, 02, 03, that's
great question. And no, it's not nearly as important you don't want it to be the same title, but if you're designating that it is with your title, picture 1, picture 2, picture 3, or, dash 01, dash 02, as long as it's not exactly the same, you're going to be fine. Like, so the images from an SEO perspective aren't nearly as important as this metadata that we're really looking at, from like the page title, the description, the H1 tags, the URL structure. That's way more important than the image titles and tags. So all right, moving on to the next section, which is arguably becoming the most important part of SEO. It's shifting because of AI. So as we've probably all heard about AI and how it's taking over the world and the internet. So one thing that, because of AI, content, which is the actual written words on the page of the website that you and I read when we see the website, is becoming incredibly important. And there's a saying that content is king in SEO, and that's very true. So we kind of talked about what was behind the scenes, behind, the website and the inner workings of the metadata. Now we're talking about what's on the page that anyone sees when they look at the website. So we want to look at your content is really good. Just to put it, we've got green checks across the board here on the audit. So we want to look at a few things for content. So word count, we want to make sure that there's a sufficient amount of meaningful words on the page, not just, a one sentence. We want to have at least a kind of a full paragraph. There's, depending on how aggressive you want to get with the word count, ideally you want to have at least 500 words on a page. It doesn't have to be all in one chunk, but you want to have kind of at least that. It's kind of a minimum standard there.
Okay.
If you have a little bit less, it's okay, but that's kind of the SEO ideal. You want to make sure that you're including your keywords in there, which could be your services, your location. You also want to make sure that you're not overdoing it, right? Like we've probably heard those websites where, they're just jamming a keyword in there and it doesn't really sound natural.
Yeah.
It's like every other word is that
Or
thing,
like a whole paragraph of just keywords
Like
in a list
yeah.
where you're just like, wait a minute, like.
Yeah. So we want to make sure we're not, where we want to include them, we want to make sure that we don't sound like weird robots when we do it. So there's that. Because
Google
balance.
kind of, I don't know the right terminology, but Google punishes that. Like
they
don't want to see you just cramming keywords or locations on pages into your site.
No, they absolutely do not. And so natural language is becoming really big. This is with the help of AI. Google's getting better at understanding what natural language looks like. It used to be, 15 years ago, there were all these little, quote unquote hacks where people would put, just a paragraph of keywords like at the footer and they'd like make it the same color, the font would be the same color as the background. So you couldn't really read it, but it was there. Google would get it. Those were kind of things people did, like I said, 15 years ago. Google's pretty smart. They figure things like that out and they know that that's not really significant. So now they actually punish you for that if you do.
Well, also
like
because
that.
porn sites and stuff would use it, and so make it like use fake or like the whitehouse.com or something, and you get tricked into using it.
Like they get you tricked to sites, so that makes sense.
Yeah, so they definitely punish it because they don't know what kind of shady shit you're up to if you're doing that.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, we want to make sure people are finding the interior designers they're looking for, not something else. So a good amount of words, like around that 500 word per page is great, including those keywords, but not overdoing it with those keywords. Just, like as you talk to a friend or something like that is fantastic. You want to make sure that you're not duplicating content from other websites. So this is actually a really big thing. It's kind of like plagiarizing back in, high school. If you're just copying something word for word, you're gonna get dinged for that. Same on your website. If you like the way a paragraph's written on another website and you just copy and paste it onto yours, Google's gonna figure that out and they're gonna downgrade you for that. Oops. So making sure that your content is original. Now that being said, if it's like a quote and it's in context of, you've got a paragraph and you're quoting someone and that's somewhere else, that's fine. But if you're just kind of repeating a page, that's gonna hurt you. And then, with that, you want to have original content, blogs written in your voice, original images, original videos. The more original and unique stuff you have on your site, the better. It's going to separate you as an expert. And then, making sure this doesn't happen too much anymore, but I come across every now and then, making sure you don't have multiple websites that are of your same business. So I've come across these people where they want to make, they buy 5 different domain names and they say, okay, I want to be an interior designer in, Long Beach and Huntington Beach and Orange County. So I'm going to buy interior designer Long Beach, interior designer Huntington Beach, interior designer Irvine. And they make duplicate websites to try to game SEO. Again, maybe that worked 10, 15 years ago, but Google's kind of caught on to that. So one website, it's all you need. So those are on the content side. You're doing great. You've got good marks across the board on that. So there's probably a little bit of tweaking we could maybe do on some of the keywords and the content, but overall, I mean, you're in great shape on content. So
in full transparency, like that's been something that over the last several months before we even knew who you were, I had been like trying to get more written because it truly was just there really was just like the homepage with a slider. And then it was like, click here to go to portfolio, services, and blog. And then that was like all that was on stuff. And it's been, I mean, Rebecca, when did we do that episode on our Patreon where I showed my website? Like I've been mostly DIYing updates for a long time to get more information and more copy. And like, I'm not saying, I definitely know it's not perfect, but it's definitely something that I realized, oh, no one's spending any time when I look at my Google Analytics. Like, no one's spending any time on these pages because, yeah, there's literally nothing there. Like, why would you spend more than 10 seconds on a page where it just has 4 images and 3 links? Like, it didn't make sense.
That's an excellent point, and you're also ahead of the curve for most people I talk to with that. A great insight, and that's exactly why you want that. Is because you want to provide value, so people come to your site and there's something interesting there. There's value, and that they spend time on it. And Google tracks that too. I mean, so they see, wow, this person got 10 people to their site, and they all left in less than 5 seconds. Must not be very interesting. Maybe we don't recommend that website as much.
Okay.
Versus 10 people came to the site, 5 of them spent 3 minutes on that website. Oh, interesting. Okay, there's something valuable these people are getting out of it there. So Google looks at that too, and it's another reason why having original content and useful content and blogs and things like that are really helpful. On the content thread here with blogs as well. So another thing Google looks at is how often the website is updated. So posting blogs or posting new projects that have been completed. Either one is really helpful because you're providing new content to your site on a regular basis. And Google sees that as your site being active, it's alive, it's updating information. So again, it's more likely to recommend your site to people looking for what you're doing versus a site where it hasn't changed.
Do you have a baseline of the bare minimum that checks that box? Like once a month, once a day?
Well, once a month is kind of the good minimum kind of rule of thumb there. Okay. So you can get, if you're doing it every day, I don't think there's a need for that. You're going to get diminishing returns there. It's not going to be worth your time. Most people that we work with, if we post one meaningful update a month where we post it, we submit it to Google, that is a significant increase. Two is great as well. It's better. 10, too much. It's not going to hurt you, but if you're not going to get the return for that.
But we're just talking about Google. If you want to write a blog every day, you will be driving traffic from your other. Yeah,
100%. No downside. If that's your passion and you love writing blogs and you want to do one a day,
there's other reasons.
No negative. Yeah. There's nothing negative about that at all, and go for it. That's great. But yeah, just from a minimum standpoint, just looking great. Then we want to look at linking. So that was content. You're in a really awesome spot. So nice work over the last few months on that. And
when you're talking about linking, because you have 2 categories that you're looking at there. You're looking at internal links where they go to other pages within my website.
Correct.
And then external links where those are going out of our website.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the internal linking, this is just how easy is it to navigate inside your website, right? You've got a lot of, with your blog posts, with your past projects, plus your regular pages, you've got a lot of pages on there, which is great. How easy is it for someone to navigate through those pages? Are you linking to those pages? And are those links going to the right places? And overall, you've done a good job with that. So it's easy to find the pages you're looking for. It's easy to link between different pages, to look at one project and go to another project, go back to your services page, things like that. You do a great job there. External linking is just, you don't get crazy with external linking, but we just want to make sure that we have some links that are linking out to other profiles, right? So your Facebook page or your Pinterest or your Yelp profile or something like that. So we want to make sure that we have some established links out to other reputable sites that represent your business, and you have those as well too. That's as simple as just looking at in your footer here, you got your Facebook, your Pinterest, your Instagram. It's it's linked correctly. It's your official pages. It's that simple. You don't have to get too crazy with that, but it's good to have. Again, just the more you can connect your website to the real world, the better.
Let's take a break to talk about Mo's home collection.
Mo's just released their 2024 spring and summer collection, and it includes 300 plus new intros, and they're calling it their tailored and timeless collection.
Yeah, when you go through the lookbook, there's all this new sort of vintage and then European and some really classic shapes that have been updated. It's some really new stuff that is very different.
Yeah, I got the link and I sent it to you, and I was pretty impressed and blown away. Not that I haven't always loved their stuff, but it's so unique. Hello, they're using color on their furniture fabrics, which seems to be impossible to find lately.
Yes. Yeah, their design team definitely leveled it up. There's some really cool creations that feel elegant but inviting.
And I think that term tailored is perfect because there's some beds with skirting on it. Just really beautiful.
Oh yeah, the pleated skirt chairs. Oh my god.
Yes.
So you guys are really good. I
They're
think
box plated. Yeah, they're so cute.
yes. So if y'all are going to be at Market, either Vegas or High Point, it's definitely worth making a stop at Mo's showrooms. They're beautiful and they've got tons of the pieces there when you get to Market.
And if you don't have an account, you can register at moshomecollection.com/HYDC.
What are your thoughts on, do designers really need, because like blogs, I'm sorry, my thoughts are all over the place on this. Of like, we do get comments from designers when we did like our Pinterest masterclass that we had with, and a lot of that was like, the Pinterest masterclass really said, if you really want to do well on Pinterest, you need more than just your standard pages, like blog pages and portfolio pages. Like those really help drive the Pinterest algorithm a lot,
A lot
which
of
I know is
individual
totally
links
different.
going into your site.
Yeah, but they want like custom new links it can't just always be /portfolio for every link that you go to. And like, what are your thoughts around how that helps or doesn't help designers? Or like, do you really think they need to have blogs, or what are alternatives? There's like a whole bunch of ideas kind of swirled.
Yeah. And first of all, I love that you guys did a deep dive on Pinterest. I did not listen to that episode, but I need to go and check it out because it is a search engine in and of itself. And I think it's overlooked a lot of times. So it's great that people are utilizing that. You guys are utilizing that. I think that is a great tool as another search engine that, especially for this industry, is used pretty heavily. And it is a totally separate algorithm and it is its own thing from Google. However, Google is aware of Pinterest. So I guess one section is being active on Pinterest, having, a good portfolio on Pinterest and a built out profile with good links on your website to Pinterest will provide good backlinks to your website. Backlinks are links on other sites that point to your website, and that will help you with your rankings as well. It will help with something that we're going to get into next year called domain authority, which is a score that your website is given. And a lot of what drives that is high quality content and websites linking back to your website. So there's a few reasons why I think that's great that you guys have done the deep dive on Pinterest. And similarly to what you said about Pinterest, for your website itself, yes, creating that content with unique links or URLs is important. So, it doesn't have to be, 10 things a month as we were talking about, but if there is a way to do, it could be a project review, could be from your portfolio where you say, where it's, we want images, but we also want content in there too. A lot of people just post images. This is where it's maybe a little different than Pinterest. On the website itself, some people will only post images and they'll say, hey, here was, I just completed this, gorgeous makeover at this, in this neighborhood. Here's 10 images. That's a great start, but we want content. So Google loves content. So we want a paragraph about words, right? We want a paragraph about what that project was. What kind of challenges did you see there? What types of techniques did you use? What, was it the whole home? What rooms were in the home? How did you design those different rooms in the home? What elements did you use? That kind of content is going to be really helpful from an SEO standpoint. That's going to give you that unique content that, Google loves to have. So that could replace a blog though. You don't have to do that and a blog. So that counts. Publishing that, putting that together on your website. That's fantastic. Maybe linking to that from some other platforms, doing a post on Facebook about it, putting it on your Google business profile. If there's a way to incorporate that with Pinterest as well, that's all going to help too. Having those other sites linking back to that new content onto your site. A little more technical, but something that we do with clients is that when we post or they post, depending if we're doing it on their behalf or if they're doing it, new content on their website, we also have their site hooked up to something called Google Search Console, which you guys can Google that. And there's tons of information on what it is and how it works. It's basically just a way to connect your site to Google directly and to tell Google you submit something called a site map to that, which is a map of all the URLs on your website. Google then crawls that, and then that helps Google index your site faster than on its own. But whenever we put a new page on a website, we submit that page directly to Google Search Console as well. And so it helps Google index it faster. It also kind of shows Google that your site is active, that you're working on it. So content is great. And linking to that content from other websites is also great. Really just a
Would you submit a blog post? Sorry. To Google Search Console or just new pages?
So a blog post is a new page.
Okay.
So yes. So yeah, every blog post is considered a new page. Technically, it has its own URL. It has its own metadata. Everything that we talked about applies to a blog post as well.
And how long would it take Google to find that if you didn't submit it? Like when you're saying it crawls it, like the downside would be you just don't submit every new blog post if you're a really like active blogger potentially. You don't go in and submit them. How long does it take Google to really recognize something like that?
It varies. It's a great question. It really varies site to site. It varies. Has Google already indexed your site? How active is your site? Are there thousands of people coming to your site? Are there a month, or there maybe just a few people coming to your site a month? So it could be weeks to months before Google.
Like the more active you are, the more content and more visitors, they're going to check it more often.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Which kind of makes sense. Like it's a busier site. It has more traffic online. It's more significant to Google. Right. So there is a bit of a snowball effect that can happen, which is if you take advantage of it, which is nice. But submitting it is also, it's kind of like, why wait? You also don't have to submit. You can resubmit a sitemap once a month if you want, if it's something where you want to do it every single day for every single post. So you can do that where you kind of submit everything, that's happened for the last few months and do like a big resubmit that way and then check it. So that's a little more on the technical side, but just something to kind of be aware of. And that works with any website that you have. Looking at coming on. So one thing that we look at, kind of the last kind of bullet point here on the on-page side of things, is domain authority and website authority. So all the elements that we just talked about, the metadata, the platform of the website, the URL structure, the content of the website, all this linking, this and other factors all play into your domain authority and your website authority. So these numbers are on a scale of 1 to 100, and it's a score that your website is given.
Okay.
Now, to put it in context, I don't know of a website that has 100 out of 100. I think Facebook is in like the high 90s, and that's, I think, the most used website in the world. Maybe there's another one, but so just to put it in context, for a local business, for a smaller site, we're not looking to get a 90 or an 80. That would be near impossible. But we do want to see, ideally, that domain authority over a 20. That's actually pretty good. You start with a 0. All websites start at 0. Also, to kind of put that in context.
Okay.
So a brand new website is going to be at 0. And then based on a number of factors, including all these backlinks, including your rankings, including how you're indexed, including just the age of the site. And there's so many more. We could do a whole thing just on domain authority, but it's something we want to check as a baseline to kind of see where you're at. It's kind of like a nice kind of like health check of the site. So your domain authority, you've got a 28, which is actually great. I was really impressed by that. Most sites I look at do not have that.
No idea.
Yeah. So it seems like it's not, because out of 100, but it actually is really good.
You said any is like, that's decent for, because a lot of us are just small businesses. So we're local, we're small. Correct. Like it's not 50% and above expected.
We're not trying to get a global presence.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And so no, over 20, like that's my goal. Like I said, all websites start at 0. So my goal is to get clients to that 20 or above as fast as possible. And that's not going to happen overnight. So another thing, I noticed your website, your domain name is over 6 years old. So that's helping. You've had a domain for over 6 years. It's been active. That helps with that. You also have a ton of good backlinks. So we were talking about all these links to your website. So, you have 14 links to your website across 98 different websites. So 98 different websites have multiple links to your website. And so there's do follow links, which are links that promote a website, people to go click to that one. And so you can link to a website and have it not be do follow, which is kind of technical, but basically you want do follow links just to kind of simplify it. 89% of the links out there to your site are do follow, which is also fantastic. So the fact that you've got a 6-year-old domain name, your site's been active, and you've got all of these great backlinks, that's really helping you with your overall domain authority.
Of those links that we could find for our sites?
Yes. Yeah, I'll get one for you guys. So I pulled that up and looked at it, and I'll send you guys. It's interesting to find out. So
I don't even know some of these people or places that are like.
We see for the podcast, for instance, we get some emails sometimes from like these big giant lists of podcasts that link to us that don't seem like real websites, but I guess they're probably helpful.
So yes. So there are some where you're like, this site just exists to link to other sites.
Yeah.
But then there are some legit ones too. Google tracks all of them. So yeah, I can give you guys a list. I pulled up a list, and I just made a note to send it over to you so you can kind of see what sites are going there. So that's kind of a good segue. Thus completes all of the on-page stuff. We're almost done. I know this is a lot of technical stuff. So this goes into the last bit of this, which kind of connects to what you were talking about with these links, is the reviews and other websites that link and list your business. We call these listing sites or business citations. There's a few different terms for them. So business listings, these are sites like your Google Business Profile, which is by far the most important thing. It used to be called Google My Business years ago. It's now called Google Business Profile. Out of all of these things to have, that is probably for obvious reasons, because it's Google's, the most important profile to have for your business is your Google Business Profile. A quick note on that. It's really helpful if there is a way to have an address associated with it. That's going to help you significantly. If there is a way to have a phone number associated with it, that's also going to help you significantly. A lot of people, especially if we're starting off, right, we're small, maybe this is a side project we're looking to grow into our main business as an interior designer. We don't want to have our home address on there. We don't want to have our cell phone number on there. Understandable. I very much recommend for everybody that I work with that they get a private mailbox and they get a virtual phone number for their Google Business Profile and for all their business listing profiles. It makes you more legitimate to Google, and it makes it easier for people to contact you.
But not a PO box necessarily, like one with a street address.
Actually, yes, and thank you for bringing that up. A PO box will not work. So yeah, Google knows the difference between a PO box and a private address, and it will not allow you to put a PO box as your main address. However, you can. The workaround is a private mailbox, which is like a postal annex or like a Mailboxes Express or something like that, where it's a street address with a number attached to it. So that's kind of a workaround to that.
And we've talked about,
if you don't have like
I think we've talked about that separately of like, it kind of helps, like, is it helpful if that physical mailbox address or wherever, if it's like a UPS or whatever mailbox, does it matter to us that it's sort of in the area where we want to be working and be found?
You can plant yourself somewhere.
Yes, great point. Absolutely. I mean, that's what Google is going to favor. So that's where we really get into that local search. So if you're targeting, Long Beach and you have an address that's Long Beach, and that's going to be better. Google is going to favor that. When people are looking for interior designer in Long Beach, they're going to say, "Oh, this website says they're in Long Beach. Their Google Business Profile has an address that's in Long Beach. They both say they do interior design. They're both set up properly.
Right.
We're going to recommend this business to somebody." So that absolutely. Yeah, you don't want to have your address in, another state, and then you're trying to focus on something there. There is a point, eventually all businesses can only be in one location from a physical address standpoint, their main office. But they might go nationwide, and that's fine. But most people that we're talking about here are going to be focused on a certain area.
And guys, don't have your home address. Like, I have a friend who does, and she claims it gets her good business because she lives in the neighborhood she wants to work in. But I've personally had this a long time ago, client show up driving by my door when I was single and lived alone. And he was creepy. Like, it was a different business. But just don't do that.
Yeah. Great point. I do not.
There's a lot of women in this industry, just like, no. I know.
Anybody. I mean, I don't recommend your home address, but especially for that, for a number of reasons. Google's not going to care, but you will probably care. So
when it's too late.
And also, I don't really recommend your personal cell phone number either. There's so many good virtual phone systems and apps out there that are really affordable, like less than $20 a month. I get one of those. It's worth it, just because you can set business hours, you can screen calls, you can make sure that people aren't calling you at 10 o'clock at night or 4 a.m. or whatever. It's super helpful to have that distinguished as your own business line separately. So definitely recommend both of those things. So looking at the listings, we ran a listings report. So there's about 50 to 60 different recognized business listing sites that will list your business, whether you want them to or not in some cases. So they will actually send what we call like spiders, little robots kind of out into the internet, and they will crawl data and they will scrape that data and put it on their website. So this is everything from yellowpages.com to, Yelp, to Better Business Bureau, to Chamber of Commerce sites, Foursquare, all of this. So ideally, we want your business to be listed on all of those with the correct information and all pointing back to your website in the right way. So this is what we call listings management. So we did a scan of all these sites for your business based off of your information here. And we found we've got the name of your business here. We've got your address, your phone number. It's tied to those things. Another reason why it's good to not have those as your personal information there. It's looking at aggregating reviews across all these sites. And it's looking at, one, are you listed on these 50 plus business listing sites? And if you are, is the information accurate? And is it accurate from site to site and with your own website? So it's a few different things we want to make sure of there. Google uses these sites to help verify your business. So the same way that, let's say, a new restaurant opens up in town and I'm trying to decide if I want to go have dinner there, I'm probably going to ask friends, people in my community, like, hey, have you been there? What was your experience? Is it open, late on Saturday? Things like that. And based off of that feedback, I'm going to decide to go or not. So Google's going to kind of does the same thing. So Google goes out to these sites and says, hey, have you heard of this business? When is it open? Where is it located? Do you recommend it? Do you have reviews for it? And it will aggregate that information and use that to recommend your site. So if your information is different or incorrect on all these different sites, Google is going to get conflicting feedback. Just like if I asked about the restaurant and everyone told me something different. It's not open on Saturday. Oh, it is open on Saturday. They serve burgers. No, they're vegan. Like, oh, well, what am I? I'm probably not going to go because I'm just like, I don't know what's happening in this place. Right. So we want to make sure that your information is the same on all of these sites. And we want to make sure that you have some good reviews on a few key important sites. So the best way to do this is through a software, working with either an agency or, going direct to like a Yext or a SEMrush or some other business listing software platforms that you can purchase. You can try to track down all 50 plus of these sites and keep the information updated yourself. You will drive yourself crazy and it will take you hours and hours and hours.
I was just thinking, I'm like, oh my God, like 50 profile creations over, like, oh my God. No, thank you.
No, there's software that does this, and almost every digital marketing agency, including my own, offers this service. And there's software, if you're feeling like you want to get a little more hands-on, you can go to some of these companies and get software packages directly and do it yourself too. So I would highly recommend doing that. That being said, the three most important of all of these is your Google business profile, your Facebook, and your Yelp. Facebook is becoming less important, but it's still on there. Just because they're the most they're the most reputable sites, right? Like Google obviously is going to favor its own site. Facebook is, we talked about, one of the most widely used sites in the world. Yelp, hate them or love them. There's a lot of feelings about both there, depending on what industry you're in, but they're still very important from a search perspective. So one thing that's really significant about these sites too is they're all review sites. So you have reviews on your Google business profile, reviews on Facebook, reviews on Yelp. Google searches these reviews about your business, and that helps determine if your business shows up. If you have negative reviews and someone else who's a competitor has positive reviews, Google's going to show that person more than it's going to show you. Also, if someone has 100 5-star reviews and you have 2 5-star reviews, Google's going to show them more. So it is important to spend some time on getting reviews on these sites and also optimizing these profiles, really filling them out completely with all the information, checking all the boxes. The magic number. So you've got great reviews. So that's to your favor. You've got 5 out of 5 stars. No surprise there, I'm sure. But we could use a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
So your Yelp profile is good. You've got 9 reviews. You got 5 stars. You're perfect. You get some more, great. But like your baseline, that threshold's been hit. You're in a good spot. Facebook, your page is great. It's optimized. It looks great. You've got good content. You put it together well, but you only have 3 reviews. And so you're under that threshold of getting a star rating there, right? So we want to get, ideally we want to get over 5 reviews so that you can technically be listed as rated.
You could get Facebook reviews.
So this is a kind of a legacy thing. So you used to be able to leave like reviews on Facebook.
Yeah.
Now it's recommendations. So now you click like, do I recommend this business? But there's a little bit of a legacy there. So it's technically not like a star review anymore.
Okay.
But there is kind of some legacy
it's more like yes
information
or no.
there where you can still recommend a business on Facebook or a business page on Facebook. And then that kind of counts. And it still kind of counts in this algorithm from a review standpoint. So yeah, great point. It's not technically a star review, but you do want to have recommendation. People go on, they say, yes, I recommend this business. They put a little, a little sentence or two about how wonderful you are. And then that gets logged on your page, and then that gets checked in with Google. On your Google business profile, which is the most important one, the minimum threshold that you want is 5 reviews. So you have 5 stars out of 5 stars, which is great, but you only have 4 reviews. So there is some data that shows that once you get 5 5-star reviews, your business profile starts showing up a lot more.
So close.
And when you're you're right there.
Oh.
You're right there.
Who do I know?
I'll go on. I'll go on and leave one after this podcast. I'll make a note. We'll get
reciprocate.
I did have one of our reps one time after she visited. Like she did one, and I was like, I never thought of asking for that or
industry
anything.
Reviews. Yeah,
she was like, she was like, because she visits the showroom and brings us materials, and like the doors are here. Like she
gets it.
She's not a design client, but I was like, oh, that was so nice that she even thought to do it. I never even thought to ask a rep to like leave something, but I was like, oh, I bet I could ask this, because they're coming in and borrowing our time a lot,
and they're always trying to kind of like keep us happy. So that's
I bet I could ask a few of them, like, hey, this really helps us if you just log into your stuff, drop a little note here, or put in a star or whatever.
It's a great idea. Yeah, reviews from, across the board. If anyone wants to give you a positive review, by all means, accept it. And nothing wrong with asking for a review. It's great. Mm-hmm. In fact, I recommend it. It helps significantly with search, and it helps the people wanting to contact your business too. When they see that you have all these reviews online, if they haven't heard of you before, it's going to help significantly with someone reaching out to you.
Yeah.
So that is kind of the off-page stuff, and all the information we just covered, all of that goes into this section here, which is how you show up online. Are you showing up online? When someone searches key terms, does your website show up? Does your business show up? So we have some tools that we use to evaluate this. A lot of people will search, their own business name or their services on their phone, see if they show up. That's not really accurate, because Google knows that that's your business and that that's your phone, and that you're probably in the location of your business while searching on that phone for your business.
It's like, like spying on yourself, kind of. They're like, hey, we know it's you.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, I'm number 1. And you're like, well, yeah, because like if I'm looking for if I was looking for like marketing services in Encinitas, and I'm sitting in my office in Encinitas for my marketing agency, and I'm on my phone that I use for my business, Google's like, well, you probably want to see this business, so we're going to show that to you.
So because the result that I see when I search something on Google is going to be different every time from what someone else is searching, because it's gathering their preferences, their data. Like if I'm searching best burrito spot Long Beach, like my results are maybe going to have something similar to someone else searching it in Long Beach, but every time it's going to pull something a little different.
Yeah, absolutely. And Google is going to, like for me, like with that example, they're going to know that I go to a taco stand down the street way too much. And so they're going to say, okay, like they're going to show that.
You obviously like this place. Let's send you there again. Like,
yes, exactly. You look at the menu, on that a lot, versus like if someone else who's never been here before, they might show them another like competitor down the street first instead. Right. So there is that to keep in mind when you're kind of searching your own business. Any good agency with SEO is going to use tools like SE ranking or some other tools to do kind of like a non-biased search of your business, where it's a tool that then sends out its own search. It's separate from your phone or your device, and it looks at the website, it looks at the keywords, and it looks at the location, and it kind of gives like a general idea of how you're showing up for those. And it's a way to kind of like track the rankings in a non-biased way, right? Where it's not being influenced by all those things. Okay. So looking at this here, when we just did a quick sampling, so we did 3 locations. We did Long Beach, Huntington Beach, because it's just close by. And then we just did all of LA County, just as kind of like a quick sample.
Okay.
And we chose 5 terms to look at across those. So the name of your business, Rinstead Interiors, and then interior design services. I saw this on your website that you do some work with historic homes.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if that was a thing. So I just threw that as a keyword of historic home interior design, full service interior designer, interior design consultation. Again, just kind of picking just a quick assessment.
Sure.
When we work with clients and we do a comprehensive SEO strategy, we're pulling 50 to 100 keywords across multiple locations. Wow. But this is just kind of like a quick little snapshot. So then we want to see, okay, of these words, let's run these words against your website for someone in Long Beach. And you're showing up number one for the name of your business, which is fantastic. That's what we would hope. Sometimes it's not the case.
Sure.
So I always like to check that.
Like you could get lost in businesses with similar names or something like that.
Like you have a unique name, yeah.
Okay.
You have a unique name, and yeah, that you've been established. We're looking at two spots. So we're looking at the organic ranking, which is like where you just rank in those results. But then we're also looking at something that we call the map pack or the local 3-pack, which is if you ever done a search result and you see the little map shows up, this is more, and you'll see like some businesses and it'll be connected to their location.
Yeah.
Maybe have some reviews. So that's connected to your Google business profile. And that's what we call like the map pack or the local 3-pack. Sometimes there's 4 in there now. So we want to check both of those, right? Like, are you showing up in that local pack? And are you showing up in the organic results that show up below that?
Okay.
There's 10 organic results on the first page. There's 3 to 4 in the map pack. So we're looking at both. So you show up in both, the name of your business, both in the map pack and in the overall page ranking. And number 1,
Okay.
Fantastic. And that's the same in LA County and in Huntington Beach. So great there. However, on the other side of things, where you're not showing up,
every other search term, no
for
show.
the other ones. Yes. And now I'm only searching the first 10 pages of Google, so I'm not in this search.
The first 10
The reason
pages.
being is because yes,
no one's getting there.
No one
basically,
does
is what.
that.
No one's going to get
one.
that far. Maybe page 1 or page 2 if you're lucky, but after that, I bet
maybe. I mean, and I'll have to look at the updated numbers on
it's
this.
like a severe drop off.
Fact check. It's like 90% drop off.
Yeah.
It's the second page. Yeah. So we want to track that, right? Because we want to see where we are so that we can track progress, because we're not going to go from page 10 to page 1 overnight. It's usually a march up those page ranks. So when we're doing SEO work, we want to track like, oh, are we on page 5? Okay, fantastic. Now can we get to page 6? Or sorry, can we get to
page 4?
Page 4, can we get to page 3? Right. So we want to track it, but it's not really going to drive any traffic to you being there. So this makes some sense based off what we've seen here, right? Like we've got some great elements on your site. You've got great content. You've got a great domain authority, but that metadata that's telling Google about your website, about your services is kind of missing. It is missing. And some of these business listings could be improved. We could get. I'm sure there's tons of people out there that would want to give you 5-star reviews. If you ask for those and boost those review ratings for you, and to improve the business listings to get those. So updating that would make a difference here.
That's really, so basically what you're saying is, like, again, for the listeners, like when you're searching interior design services and it's someone in Long Beach, mine doesn't show up at all. You're saying what would help that show up is getting some of those metadata titles and descriptions. Like none of mine say interior design services. So the Google has no idea that I'm doing that and that those are connected to each other.
Correct. If, for instance, if we actually go to your services page on your website and we click on that and we look at the metadata, it just says services, Rinstead Interiors, right? It doesn't say top rated interior designer in Long Beach.
Right.
That would be a great title, right? We do have a description that has some information there that does say Long Beach, which is great. But then other than that, that's the only place it shows up. So we're kind of missing other places. Also in those going back to those H1 tags, those header tags, we've got 8 of them on this page. We should ideally only have 1, and none of them say
interior design services.
And none of them say Long Beach.
Yeah.
So again, we're kind of looking at that. So just some simple things would help. Another thing too I see this a ton actually. So Google likes things to be specific. So this is kind of more on the website itself. If we want to kind of build out your website even further to help with this, right? So your services, you have a services page, which is great. And you list the services that you offer: consultations, design sessions, full service. You've got a great design here to this page. I really like the way it looks. The design process, I love this, where you have this drop down where you're kind of breaking down what it's like to work with you. This is all from a user interface, as we call it. Like, great. Where this could be better for Google is, and this is what I recommend to a lot of people too, whether you're an interior designer or really any local business offering a service, this should be a landing page that talks about you as a full service interior designer and all the services that you offer. And then each one of these different types of services under that umbrella should have their own page. So a page dedicated to all about interior design consultations,
Okay.
a page dedicated to interior design sessions, a page dedicated to full service interior design, just kind of reading through what you have listed here. So how that's going to help is if you have a whole page to, let's say, consultations. Now, if I'm searching for interior design consultation, which would be a keyword that I would search for, that Google's going to go, wow, here is a website that's built out for an interior designer. I see that they have services listed. I see that they have consultations. I see that they have a whole page about interior design consultations. That's probably a good page to send somebody to. So breaking out your services into each service, to a general service page that lists kind of an overview of what you do, and then having that link to each service, individual service having its own page, very helpful. It's something, and for interior designers, absolutely. Even for my own business, it's what I do. So I have, full service digital marketing, and then I have, we list everything that we do, websites and SEO and ads. But then each one of those pages has a whole page on website design, a whole page on running ads, a whole page on SEO. And this would be the same if you were a plumber or interior designer or a contractor, whatever it might be. You want to break those out so you're telling Google exactly what you do. So that would be very helpful, and with working with some of these keywords here and helping bring those pages to light.
Could that go to like blog posts, or does it need to be like a proper page, like how I have services, contact, about us, whatever? Like, does that matter in the hierarchy of like blogs kind of get pushed down a little bit lower?
Yep.
It's nested.
Yeah. So blogs are great, but they're kind of their own category, right?
Okay.
And so you'd want this to be more prominent on the website. So where blogs is, this is a large body of content. You want this to be like a core page on your website.
So it could be as easy as like changing that services to, there's a general services one, and then there could be drop down like sub services of consults, full service.
Great.
Like to make it so you can get to them, but also the pages are prominent enough that they rank in importance.
Yes, absolutely. And that'd be a great, you've got your top navigation here, where you've got your about and your portfolio and your services and your blog.
Mm-hmm.
The services could just become a drop down where I can click all services or, services overview. And then underneath that, I've got the individual services too. And so it's just a quick drop down. Doesn't have to drastically affect the way your website looks.
Sure.
But yeah, that would be very helpful. The other thing that we can do, or that you can do, I should say, and anyone can do, is something called, it's an SEO tactic, different names, either called city pages or location pages. And so if we're targeting certain areas, so I'm looking at, your footer here, which is actually great that you have this listed. For instance, Interior is a boutique full service interior design studio based in Long Beach, California. Fantastic. And serving Rossmore, Seal Beach, Huntington Beach, Irvine, Costa Mesa, Laguna, Newport, and beyond. Fantastic that you put that in the footer, and great that you've identified those key neighborhoods. What we can take this a step further for Google and do is make each one of these pages, each one of these neighborhoods, Seal Beach, Huntington Beach, Irvine, their own page on the website. So these could each be a link. I click on Irvine, and now we have a page all about how you offer your services in Irvine. And
it's the same page for all of them? Or like how much different do they need to be?
Great question. Yeah. Right? So from a design standpoint, it can be exactly the same. But the content has to be different. So you don't have to recreate the wheel from a design standpoint. You can, if you're using, Wix or Squarespace or WordPress, whatever it might be, you can literally copy that page from a design standpoint, but then you want to replace all the content in that page to make it about you offering your services and working with, and in your case, homeowners in that location. And so that's going to tell Google that. And again, keep in mind too, we want to make sure that all that metadata that we talked about before, the page title, the page description, the H1 tags are all unique and all listing that information also. So that's going to tell Google, hey, here's an interior designer. They're based in Long Beach. They offer all these services, but they've got great reviews. I've got someone in Huntington Beach, though, that's searching for an interior designer. Oh, look, they've got a whole page on their website dedicated to working with people in Huntington Beach also.
Okay. But it doesn't need to be in your top nav. Like, users don't need to find it. Okay.
No, yeah, great question. Yeah, great point. Users don't need to find it. It's not a page that you need to send someone to once they're on your website. Yeah. It's not, it's a page that will be used to maybe attract someone to your website, but not a page that you need to send someone to once they're on your website.
Because it's kind of embarrassing.
So So is it enough, like you're saying, just to link it to, like, if it says Huntington Beach in that paragraph we talked about, it can be linked there and that's enough?
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't need a ton of links across my whole website to it.
No. I mean, you need some. You absolutely need some links to it. And again, going all the way back to earlier, we talked about Google Search Console and submitting it to that. We absolutely want to make sure we do that.
Sure.
We want to have there, a link on your footer. It's fantastic. Some people will go a step further and they'll kind of build out like a service area or location page, or they'll link individually on that too. You can do that as well. Not necessary. Not going to hurt though. But to the bigger point, it's not something where we're trying to drive traffic to it once they're on the website. It's just to help capture people that are maybe looking for your services in different areas.
And that page should say, Evan, it should be like Huntington Beach interior design services, or like, yes, it needs to be like the slug of the page, the URL needs to have it, the metadata, the titles, and then I need to write something that's different on each page.
Yes,
but it could be
you nailed it.
It doesn't have to be like, I know we're not asking every designer to become like a creative writer, so like, don't overthink it. Probably, like you said, like it's like 500 characters or less or something.
ChatGPT reload it each time and get their different version.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. I mean, yeah, most people probably that are listening to this are, they're running their own business and they're wearing, 15 different hats. Yeah. They're an interior designer. They're also a part-time accountant and a part-time web designer and a part-time scheduler and all those things. So yeah, so I've been there. I know we've all been there. And so, yeah, not asking anyone to become a copywriting expert or a digital marketing expert. ChatGPT is absolutely a useful tool for you. It's free. You need some help. You need to get some copy on there. You need to be unique. For that DIY. Yeah, go for it. Check it out.
And does it need photography?
It does.
Helps.
Images, yes. Oh. Helps. Yes, it does not need to be. Don't overly stress if you use some of the same images from your other pages on your website. That's okay. Again, ideally, we'll kind of talk in ideals. Ideally, yes, everything would be perfect and unique, and it would be fully built out. Realistically, what we're doing, you're doing it yourself. You want to reuse some images from your site. That's okay. It's not going to be a big deterrent. One thing that is nice to kind of have to kind of set it apart is if you can find either through something like Shutterstock or like Wiki Images or something, some free image, or maybe an image you pay $5 for. If you can get an image of the location somewhere on that page too, to kind of help set it apart as maybe the main image, it's helpful. It makes the page look a little nicer. It also helps people connect. If I'm in Huntington Beach and I see a picture of Huntington Beach, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm in the right spot. So
I would have never thought it. That's more like a consumer behavior standpoint, right? Like,
yep, yeah. It's not as much an SEO thing, but just kind of as far as making the page a little bit more appealing.
Yeah. So if we're writing copy, like we want to talk, like I'm imagining, like I don't want to go full tilt, but like, yeah, if I was trying to connect with someone in Seal Beach, I might want to say like, my favorite spot in Seal Beach is X or Y, or like, but that's more like connecting
authentic
with the
content.
person who's,
and not make it look just like a hack. Like you want it to look like true to something you want people to see for your business.
Yeah.
So yeah, 100%. You're right on all fronts there. And that actually will help with SEO. That's going to make the page that much more relevant to Seal Beach. So as AI becomes more prevalent and Google gets smarter, that kind of information, that kind of genuine, real information is going to become more important to setting websites apart. So we're not too far from a day where Google is going to look at a website and say, this was all hacked together to just stuff in keywords. This is someone actually writing something meaningful. We're going to go with the meaningful website over the kind of keyword stuffy website. Yeah. So that's already starting. Mm-hmm. It's only going to become more prominent in the next couple of years as AI becomes more prevalent with search. So. And eventually they'll just design everything for us and we won't have to do anything because AI will take over. Just kidding.
Can't wait. No, it's like, I mean, my brain is swimming a little bit, which I know you said was going to happen, of just like, how far do we go on this? And like, when do you stop? And so I know that there's definitely a hierarchy to like getting stuff addressed first, which is, I think, is that how you would say your audit is built? Is like, the most important stuff I'm going to get up here first, like, and then work your way down and through those things if you're trying to DIY it. But obviously, this is what you do for your clients. Is like, you don't just spot it, but you also help get it fixed and filled in, right?
Yes, yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I feel like that'd be no one would like me if I just told them
report
everything
cards
I was
all the
wrong.
time.
And it was like, okay, see you later.
Here's what
I
you
don't
did
think that would
wrong,
be
but I'm not going to help you fix
So
it. Yeah.
like walking into a house and being like, "This is horribly designed." Well, I'll see you later.
Yeah.
Like, have a good day in your ugly home.
Can you work with clients or designers all over, like location
Yeah,
wise?
absolutely. Yeah, I work. So I'm based in Southern California, not too far from you guys, but I work with clients across the country, and I actually make a point to not work with too many people in the same location because after a while it kind of becomes self-defeating. So if what I do is get you to the first page of Google, I can only do that for so many businesses in the same location, right? That kind of makes sense. And then I'm like competing against myself. So
Right.
I like working with people. Yeah. So once I hit a certain number of people in a certain location, I actually will stop working with that business in that location and only work with them in other locations. So, and that's also something to kind of look at if you are looking at digital marketing in general is, you want them to have some familiarity with your business. So hopefully they've worked with interior designers in this case before, but you also don't want them only working with interior designers in your city because let's say they've already got 5 interior designer clients in your city. How many of you are there until you're all competing with each other and you're hiring someone to compete against themselves for your business? It's kind of weird, but
your
but
advertising can only be so good if you can't sell to 10 people in one
Well, you're
city.
gonna have to sacrifice somebody if it's gonna bump the last client off the page. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So there is this kind of a threshold there.
Okay.
Okay, so you're
so
ethical.
this is what we do.
Nice.
So yeah, I like to think so. So yeah, so we do this. This is North County Digital is the name of my agency, and this is the reason why we have this audit. Is this is the first step in working with someone is we go through and we want to figure out exactly where they are, so we can put together a proposal to get them to where they need to be. It's going to be a little different for everybody. Like some people, like you have, for instance, you've got great content. You've got a really nicely designed website. Your design looks great. Your content looks great. You've got some really positive things. We don't really need to do much with that. But, we do need to work on some other elements. So a proposal and a plan for you is going to look a little different than maybe a plan for somebody else based off of where you're at. Maybe someone has 100 5-star reviews and they're just doing fantastic on that side of it, but they need some work somewhere else. Like, just kind of depends.
Sure.
So.
Okay.
that's
so if any listeners want to reach out, how does it start? Like, how does your audit kind of kick off work? And
thanks. So, you can just reach out via probably my website is the easiest way, northcountydigital.com. And we have a live chat, contact forms, phone number, so whatever you're most comfortable with. And usually we start with an audit and a quick conversation just to kind of get to know your business and what you're looking at, what your goals are. And we put together an audit, we review that, and then depending on what your thoughts are with the audit, then we'll put together a proposal and we'll kind of go from there. So
awesome.
It's pretty straightforward. Probably very similar, I would imagine, to how a lot of the interior design consultations go. First kind of the initial meeting, kind of the assessment of what's going on, and then a proposal for what to do next.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think like the discovery process is kind of like this helps you determine whether you can help a designer. They tell you what they're trying to accomplish. And hopefully, like, I guess part of this would be like, realistically, should every designer be thinking that they're going to end up on the first page of Google? Like,
great question. So no. So scope and scale is a big part of all the projects. So, can we get anyone to the first page of Google? Technically, yes. Do you have the resources, the time, and the effort to get there? Maybe not, and that's okay. But there are things that, you can still do and to improve your business and to maybe help get found in your local area too. So the scope of it too is, and this is for any client that I work with, you're not going to be the number one XYZ in the country right away. We got to start local. So let's make sure you're number one, or maybe on just the first page in your neighborhood, and then maybe your city, and maybe the surrounding cities, and we kind of go from there.
Right.
So it's always important to kind of keep that in mind.
It's sort of like when we talk with designers, Evan, about like press, of like local press sometimes gets you a lot further than national press, and people are looking at that. But you also like, can you even help people nationally? Like, probably not. If you're just getting local press, you might want to stay local business, and so that local traffic matters more than someone internationally, or like for us, someone in New York seeing my page is probably not really helpful for me.
Yeah, I completely agree. And especially from a standpoint of people, especially, when they're talking about, their living space, and having someone in there to work on that, they usually, and not all the time, but they usually want to have some sort of connection with that person, I would assume, right? So, maybe not.
Yeah, no, I
No.
mean, yeah, some of them are like, oh yeah, I need to feel comfortable and safe
But
with this
that's where
person,
social
so.
media comes in, and
True.
we can
Yeah.
drive clients that way by getting to know us. But yeah.
I would bet that a lot of designers listening maybe even haven't gone to their Google. They probably don't even have a profile link for Google, like Google My Business or Google Business Search, or they've never looked at their analytics to realize like, oh, how many people actually get to my website? They're just like, oh, I don't have a lot of inquiries. And then you go and look and it's like, yeah, you have 0 traffic to your website. So yeah, that's why you have no one giving an inquiry. They don't even, they're maybe, if you're lucky, just seeing you on social media, but they're never getting to you in any other fashion.
Yeah,
It's just overwhelming. I mean, I personally, I know a lot about this stuff, but also don't spend time auditing my site and my links. Sean sends me stuff a lot like, hey, your portfolio link name is wrong. And I had just been messing with it. So like, yeah, I need a second pair of eyes on it, obviously. So
And
I
that's
do
why
think
it's
it's helpful
better to
just
be
the
Evan.
audit. Yeah. And he's nice about it.
I'm not mean. I'm just
No,
like,
you're not.
this site, like I will, some people are ready to hear the information when I've like said to designers, I'm like, hey, like just a heads up, this link is broken. I was on your website. And if I'm friendly with that designer, they don't find it weird that I happen to be looking at their website. But it would be weird if it was someone I had no connection to. And they're like, why are you stalking my website? You're obviously trying to look at what I'm doing. Like, yeah, okay.
Your site.
Yeah, like I'm looking at your site and copying or trying to find out what you're doing. Like, I think it'd be better if it came from someone like you who's like an objective third party who isn't, you're not critiquing, like if, I'm sure I obviously was not expecting that, but you're not there to critique and like totally trash someone's website or
You're
what's going
offering
on.
solutions. I mean,
this
like
is
you're
good or
offering
this is
help.
okay. And it doesn't have to be all content based, but I'm sure you would weigh in on like, hey, like just from a usability standpoint, I notice these things and it could impact people staying here, even if I can get them to you faster or longer or more often. These are some other thoughts, and you can help kind of give them a weighted approach of how they address all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, not here to ruin anyone's day or to like call their baby ugly or whatever. There's an old saying. I always get depending on the person, you gotta feel it out of just like, oh, did you build this yourself? Okay, cool. Like, are you going to be upset if I say things about it that aren't great? But yeah, so I mean that's what we're here for, right? We're here to assess the situation and provide solutions, and then execute those solutions. I'm a big fan of, especially working with smaller businesses where there is a lot of do it yourself. I'm a big fan of empowering people that I work with so that they own their own website, that if there's things that they can do that they want to take time to do or they're passionate about, great. Like I can say, hey, you tackle these 5 things, we'll tackle these 5 things, and we'll go from there. So we're pretty flexible in that standpoint. Some agencies are kind of an all or nothing. That's not really how I like to do business. So, but yeah, on kind of go back to what you're saying, like, yeah, there's a lot. It's a ton to process. I'm sure half people probably fell asleep for me talking through half this SEO stuff, but
or they're taking notes so much about what to fix on their own website now.
Hopefully,
that's what I was saying.
But there is a hierarchy to it. So there is absolutely kind of a triage of what's going to impact you the most right away. What's more of like a longer tail strategy. So we can definitely help break some things out like that and say, okay, these are the 5 things that need to be done right away. Here's some things we can look at down the line or like that too. So yeah.
Okay. This is fantastic. I'm excited by all the possibilities and also, a little bit overwhelmed, which is why it's like, that's why I reached out to Evan in the first place. So thank you for going on an adventure with us.
Yeah. Thank you guys. This was an adventure too.
And we'll definitely be posting links to Evan's contact in our show notes too, if you are driving or something.
Yeah.
Multitasking.
Try to do everything at once. But Evan, our listeners can find you again at northcountydigital.com. And that's really the main place you want them to find you. Do you want them to stalk you on Instagram too? Or
they're welcome to. I'm at Evan S. Larkin on Instagram, so feel free. But you'll probably get a faster business response from me on my website. But
I'm sure.
More followers is great. So yeah, go for it.
Perfect.
Awesome. Thank you for being so generous with your information and your thoughts with us today. I know that this is like a ton to like get into the process, but we really appreciate it. And I'm sure that the hotties listening are going to appreciate it too.
Well, thank you guys. This was an awesome experience. And yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me here. So it was great.
Thank you so much.
All right. Until next time.
Stay hot, designers. Thanks for listening to the Hot Young Designers Club podcast.
For more on what we talked about today, check out the show notes.
Your support helps us grow, so share with your design besties.
And subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts.
Our conversations continue on Instagram.
And be sure to download our monthly resources on our website and our Patreon.